This is not the video I was going to make, but I feel like this is quite interesting. So I'm Will, I'm the host of the Bald Book Geek, and I have an insider leak, kind of, from Rings of Power, the costume department, and I thought you guys would find this quite interesting. Someone I know makes leather pieces and weaponry. He makes swords, beautiful pieces. I own a lot of his leather work. I own some of the swords he's created over the years. I've bought them from him, and he gifted me a sword about 10 years ago, which hangs beautifully in my living room. And this thing's huge. But he's done, and I can't name names because contracts and so on. He's done a lot of work for film and television across the UK, Europe and America, and New Zealand and Australia. He's had pieces commissioned by some very famous and well-known people over the years that he's been doing this. And he got contacted by Amazon. And I won't say the name of the department because that would probably give too much away, but he got contacted by Amazon when Rings of Power moved to the UK for Season 2. He got contacted by them to create some unique pieces for the actors in the show. This is where it gets really strange. They didn't want him to make the pieces. They wanted him to design them. And then they would recreate the pieces in faux leather, plastic, and other things. They also wanted to know if he could design some swords that would be effectively 3D printed. He said no, and they kept coming at him with money, but the problem is what they were offering was very low compared to his normal fees. If he does something for a film or television, music videos, or commission pieces, they are 100% made and real, and he creates them. That's it. And he will do slightly cheaper versions for background people and people like that just look the part. They might be just painted on, stuff like that, rather than carved leather. But the money they were offering him was not enough. They also wanted to remove his name off the work. So the costume department would take credit for the pieces and creation of those. That's also a no-no. I mean, the costumes in Rings of Power are laughably bad in places. And I said this before, like, if you, background people, extras, yeah, you're not going to put them in expensive chainmail and pieces. You're going to cheat a little bit. It looks the part from a distance type thing. That's normal. But the main players are literally imprinted fish scale fabric sometimes. That's not good. I mean, Xena Warrior Princess has better costuming. And everything, the armor doesn't fit the actors. There's a whole... I've talked about that theory before. The other leak from the costume department of Rings of Power is they're going to be recycling costumes from the BBC and British television workshops and warehouses, which will be interesting. Apparently, and I take this with a pinch of salt, they will be recycling costumes from Merlin, BBC's Merlin. That's going to be interesting. I don't know how they're going to make them fit. But this just screams cheap. And that's ultimately the thing. Oh, we want a specialist in weaponry and leatherwork to create pieces, but we don't want to give you credit for them, and we're just going to make them ourselves if you design them out of PVC and 3D print stuff. And I think that's probably what's happened with a lot of the costuming on that show. But I find that really slimy. You know, regardless of my feelings about Rings of Power, it is an opportunity to get your work out there. And if you're working with someone that's well known, wouldn't it be good to have their name on your product? Just putting that one out there. This just seems really cheap, really slimy, and they're already causing environmental damage in parts of England, so that's a whole different video. But it just seems this really shady thing to do. And kind of slimy as hell. Let's be real, it's slimy. And, you know, you're working with someone that's had pieces featured in very prominent television shows, movies, who has worked in and out the film industry, recreated things for private users, and has had things sold for a lot of money that carries a little bit of cachet within the industry. And you are, oh, we want you to design it, but we want to pay you less so you don't actually make it, and we take credit for it so your name's not on it. That's not on. At all. And I really dislike that kind of stuff. I do. It's just the nature of it. So yeah, a little bit of Rings of Power news that might be interesting to you. I found it quite interesting. And I will talk to you guys a bit later.